Who was the group of people that thought Jay Shetty was this great motivational person who just like really changed their lives?
A lot of my core friends are really like-minded.
Positive peer pressure can be really healthy.
His story was a lie. He didn't go to India and study to be a monk.
So I remember my first day of monk school. I just shaved my head. I'm now wearing robes. I still look like I'm from London. Like I can't get away with it.
He's 100% full of shit and stole every single thing his career is based on.
You guys know how I feel about Hollywood trainers or life coaches, these celebrity handlers who seek out vulnerable celebrities and manipulate them and then eventually drain them of their funds. While I do recognize there are real trainers out here and life coaches, in Hollywood there's like a second tier of this industry where they really exploit these vulnerable people. They latch onto them, make them dependent on them, and then continue to use them for their money. Now, I don't know if Jay Shetty is this person, but you guys have asked me to do a deep dive into him, so let's get into it. Let's start off with where Jay got his education. After hearing a monk speak when he was at a university, Jay decided to spend his summers living with the monks in India, which I'm actually in Bangkok right now, and I love seeing the monks all around. Just 3 years later, he would choose to fully enter monkhood, leaving behind his corporate job to dedicate his life to service, mindfulness, and peace. Aww. For the next 3 years of Jay's life, it consisted of meditating for 8 hours a day, practicing complete gratitude and self-awareness with intention. He really became a community man. Now, after 3 fulfilling years living as a monk, Jay made the decision to be of service in a different way, which I feel like once you enter monkhood, like, aren't you not supposed to leave? I don't know. If you're a monk, comment below. He left, shout out to all the monks too. He left monkhood to return home and begin writing, speaking, and creating with purpose. He said after having 40 job rejections, which it turns out nobody wants to hire someone who's been a monk for 3 years, Jay created his first viral video. He's now produced over 400 videos on social media, surpassing more than 7 billion views. He also hosts the #1 health podcast in the world, On Purpose. With over 6 million students enrolled into his online course, I must admit, I'm a little bit scared talking about Jay, but I wanted to give you guys some context of who we're working with.
In the monk philosophy, there are 3 modes, and the modes are the mode of ignorance, the mode of passion, and the mode of goodness. And it's said that every decision, every thought, every action, every intention, every relationship can be in the mode of ignorance, mode of passion, or mode of goodness. And the mode of ignorance is where your relationships or any act is based on insecurity or fear. So when you're doing something out of fear, or you're doing it out of insecurity, or you're doing it out of pressure, that's considered the mode of ignorance. The mode of passion is...
Okay, one thing I can understand if he's like super knowledgeable in this world. Also, beautiful eyes. I thought I had pretty eyes, but I don't like when people think they know everything. Like, I'm just getting that off the bat. Like, you cannot tell him nothing because he already knows it all, which is something I don't actually find very healing. I feel like when I'm with my therapist dealing with like my own personal things, it's better that they help me guide to the decision, not telling me there's 3 modes to a person. I don't know. Maybe I'm being too judgmental.
Where you're doing something because you want a certain result. You're doing it just for the reward. You're doing it just because it's going to get you what you want. It's going to get you to the goal. And then finally, the mode of goodness is the energy of like, I feel really at peace. I feel really at ease. This feels aligned with my values, and therefore it feels like the right decision.
Now you guys are probably like, wait, hold up. How is this Jay guy not, Times Person of the Year? Sounds like he's, like just came down here to heal us all, huh? Well, we've actually found an article that pokes some holes into his story. Maybe he's not as monk as we really thought. Did you know that children are being diagnosed with serious conditions like type 2 diabetes and non-alcoholic fatty liver disease? And research is potentially linking ultra-processed foods to these outcomes. Morgan & Morgan is stepping in to fight to hold food companies accountable. With decades of experience fighting large corporations, they are ready to stand up for families that deserve justice. If your child under 21 has been diagnosed with type 2 diabetes or fatty liver disease, visit www.forthepeople.com/foods to learn more. This article writes that Jay Shetty is a life coach who dispenses advice that he claims is based on knowledge he gained while studying with the monks in India. Since he started churning out inspirational videos in 2016, he's gained quite the following. And there's a lot of celebrities who have praised his work. I'm talking about everyone from Michelle Obama to Kim Kardashian to Matt Damon. And of course, Gwyneth Paltrow has also praised him, the life coach to all celebrities. Erewhon, the grocery store, even put out a smoothie in his name, Jay's Love Potion. So this guy is everywhere. Here's a clip of him interviewing Kim Kardashian.
I think that obviously everyone around you is different and has different personalities. But I think a lot of my core friends are really like-minded.
Yeah, and sometimes that positive peer pressure can be really healthy too. Like,
Yeah.
even if you have that one friend who's struggling, as soon as you're added to that group,
Totally.
you see them elevate. I've seen that with so many of my friends that
Totally.
even if there's one person who's struggling with something, as soon as they're in that pack,
Yeah.
all of a sudden you start to see them break through their ceiling.
Yeah.
He's one of those people who could sit here and talk about problems for like 10 hours. Like if you were to get into a disagreement with him, it's going to be like a 48-hour fight because you're going to be talking back and forth because he over deciphers everything. This article writes, well, it seems like someone is calling BS on Jay's whole deal. A journalist named John says that he was commissioned to write a profile for Esquire. He allegedly dug up a few inconsistencies in Jay's claims, particularly in what he's had to say about his religious backstory. Well, that's interesting because he claims that the knowledge he has is based off of his studies on religion. Now, we all know that Jay went off to go and study with the monks for 3 years after having a monk come to his university and speak there. Well, it looks like John, the reporter, found some inconsistencies. For one, Jay frequently changes his age in the story. He sometimes says he was 18, but also claims he was 21 or 22. It looks like Jay's legal team actually went to confirm that he did have this encounter with this monk at around 19 or 20. So that's when he was introduced into the monkhood lifestyle and he realized he wanted to pursue it. He wanted to go and be a monk. But there are bigger holes in his story. Based on accounts from people who knew Jay, he didn't go to India for as much time as he claimed. He didn't go there for 3 years. According to some of his former associates, one who he dated for a year, he reportedly spent most of his monk time not in Mumbai in India, but in fact in London. Well, that changes a lot because I thought he dropped everything and went to India for 3 years to study to become a monk. He lived as a monk, which when you're a monk, you are a celibate person. So I find it interesting that he like leaves the monkhood and then just instantly starts like getting intimate with people, including his.
I was just blown away. I was just like, wow.
According to some people, Jay was not nearly as cut off from society as he made people believe. They say he actually spent a lot of his time filming viral YouTube videos while in London. So he wasn't so entrenched in his studies as he said he was when he was in India, which he never was actually. He was in India for a little bit, but not when he was studying. Actually, Jay said at one point he didn't even know who the prime minister was because he was so deep into the monkhood while in London. One former monk actually ratted him out and said, I saw him in more sweatpants than I ever saw him in a robe. In a monk robe, you guys know you wear the orange robe, depending on the type of monk. Well, it looks like Jay actually wore his Western style sweatpants more often. Jay has also been cagey about the fact that some of his religious education seems to have happened in the Hare Krishna movement, a Hindu religious organization known more formally as the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. According to what his lawyers told The Guardian, he grew up in the Hare Krishna faith, something that has not been mentioned publicly, but didn't find it meaningful until his encounter with this monk back in 2007. It looks like this organization has a controversial past of involving allegations of ABUSC in the 70s and 80s, which may be why Jay would want to distance himself from it.
Who was the group of people that thought Jay Shetty was this great motivational person who just like really changed their lives? Because it wasn't brown people, I'll tell you that. Like, it's so funny to me that the fact that his story was a lie, that he didn't go to India and study to be a monk, is like the reason people are no longer invested in him. Because what about that story even like motivated you or inspired you? It wasn't even like he was a successful monk. Like, it was just like he went there and he tried to be one, but then he couldn't, so now he's just sharing all this wisdom that he learned from being around them. Like, if that's what you want, you would go to India and do that. Like, anybody can go to an ashram in India. Like, I've been to an ashram in India, and let me tell you, not much about it is inspirational because they're usually really busted and run down. There is a group of brown people who have sold non-brown people, and particularly white people, this version of like spirituality and enlightenment and the ultimate divine that is just like so untrue and crazy.
So that must put a really bad taste in your mouth. So many people look up to this man believing that he's got this level of consciousness that's going to help them, that he could be of some assist, that his words have meaning, but he's all a lie. Jay has also been hit with accusations of plagiarism for years. In 2019, he took down upwards of 100 YouTube and Instagram videos after a YouTuber, Nicole, found the original sources of his several go-to parables. So he would go and preach these things in videos, these like life meanings and coaching lessons. Remember at the start of this video, I said he's got 6 million students that he's selling online courses to. Well, it turns out that Nicole placed some of the content that he was putting starting out with original content. So he was watching people give these speeches or tell these tales or give this advice, and then he would just mimic them on his own channel and claim that he's the source of this knowledge.
He's 100% full of shit and stole every single thing his career is based off. In 2 years of stealing everybody else's material, Jay got himself on the Forbes 30 under 30 list and is making millions. It's not like he reposted somebody else's meme. He crops their name out and puts in Jay Shetty. That's stealing. But there's no way Facebook's golden child who says the word authentic like 100 times a talk to make desperate housewives in search of a sugary hit of fake fluffy motivation. I'd make him a sociopath and a liar and at very least a plagiarist. Ideas are recycled all the time. It's how we teach each other and learn. That's not what's happening here. Jay Shetty consistently steals other people's work and puts his name on it as the fucking author. Pretty shitty thing to do, actually.
Now, you guys know I hate those YouTuber courses that YouTubers put out to become a YouTuber or to make $1 million like the Ace family tried to do. So, of course, I am not buying Jay Shetty's life coaching program. I'll pass on this one. There's also a Jay Shetty certification school, a $7,400 term self-help course that purports to give students a master degree in life coaching. It turns out the school's accreditations are questionable at best. So it doesn't look like his program that you're paying almost $8,000 for actually gives you any true certification, just a Jay Shetty one. Jay actually listed several schools, including one in the UK, saying that these schools accept certification from his program, when in fact the Guardian did their due diligence and found out that they do not. Once that university in the UK heard about this, they put out their own statement saying, "We do not in fact accept any of Jay Shetty's certifications here." So they made it very clear. The Guardian has also pointed out the general structure of Jay's school, its vague credentials, its hefty price tag, and its emphasis on recruiting new students. It looks just like an MLM scheme to me. And that's what a lot of this life coaching is. It's an MLM scheme. It's a pyramid scheme for you to go and recruit other vulnerable people. Spend this $8,000. It will change your life. And I don't know what sauce they're drinking, what fruit punch they're drinking, but it's not true. That TikToker Be Better, who found himself in his own controversy a few months ago, actually made a video about Jay, and I wanted to share it here because he's speaking truth.
One of the biggest tenets of being a monk, no matter what religion you're in, is you essentially renounce the material world. You change your name, you give up all of your belongings, you completely separate yourself physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually from this physical world. They don't have phones, they don't have internet, they don't obsess over money, they don't have money. So the entire point of it is, in order to gain spiritual enlightenment, you give that away. You give away the prestige of the world. You give away your degrees. You give away your desire to climb the ladder of popularity and money and all of these material things. So to me, there was a very stark contrast to what his beliefs were when he was a monk to now being somebody that seemed to be very obsessed with Hollywood elite celebrity culture, very obsessed with money, having an app that was valued at like $2 billion and charging extremely high prices for life coaching, going on these tours where the tickets were very expensive, which is why me and my friend didn't end up going, because it was like paying to go to like a Taylor Swift concert. It was ridiculous.
I've actually learned a lot about monks since being here in Thailand, and it is such a difficult position to be in. You truly give yourself to a bigger meaning, which is why when earlier in this video, I was like, wait, you did it for a couple of months, a couple of years, and then you just checked out, and now you're having sex again and doing these things that monks do not do. It makes me question, how were you even a monk? Who allowed you to be called a monk? Now, of course, Jay has nothing to say about these accusations. Actually, he's been moving forward, and he's even got an upcoming workshop, a $40 per month community that you can join. He's also dropped a new podcast episode about how to stop caring, which it sounds like he's taking his own advice. Now, let's look at some of the reactions from social media. This person tweeted, "Why doesn't this surprise me?" Reacting to a headline, influencer Jay Shetty lied about past plagiarized Instagram posts and more. Quote, Jay avoids mentioning IceCon, instead describing himself as a Vedic monk. This person added, the drama within the spirituality market is likely to persist for a few more decades, I think, until the market becomes saturated. Now they're speaking to the bigger picture that there's this entire world, like I mentioned to you guys, this second tier of industry where people are using life coaching or religious factors to go and manipulate vulnerable people. They think it's going to persist for some time, and honestly, seeing how Jay's been able to build this empire, I would agree. Another person wrote, why are people people actually surprised by Jay Shetty lying about his past and plagiarizing content? Have you all learned nothing from every single public figure and influencer who claims to be enlightened and shares cheesy quotes and pop psychology facts on their spiritual mission? Another tweet from Pedro reads, "It's so funny that the Western world needed an article to figure out that Jay Shetty was a fraud. Like, what part of him screamed that he was legit? Anyone who calls themselves a life coach or a spiritual guru is a fraud." End of. Harris tweeted, "I used to always like listening to Jay Shetty's motivational speeches, and he turns out to be a fraud." This person tweeted, "LOL, I've been waiting for this day. Obviously, Jay is a scam artist and a snake oil salesman. Honestly, when I see people who follow him on Instagram non-ironically, I immediately lose respect for them and their intelligence, or lack thereof." Another person wrote, "OMG, you're telling me Jay Shetty is actually a grifting con artist? Shocked, absolutely shocked." This Reddit post shared a text thread. "Jay Shetty's always a fraud. A brief conversation I had with his team. He works for money, so-called being a monk." Now, essentially, this is a screenshot where it looks like they are asking Jay Shetty for some kind of like interview or collaboration, and they're letting them know that he's got a rate that they're going to have to pay for it, which I understand in the influencer world. But again, he's coming from a monk background, which typically doesn't operate under, a profit market. They're not trying to go and bring in a ton of money for their advice. They're supposed to be giving everything back to the community constantly. Jay's team responded to this DM, "Thanks for sharing. You seem like a good fit for Jay's case study. Jay can't wait to help you with that over the next 49 days. And then sent them a link to go and essentially pay for a program. They actually tried to discuss Jay's rate, saying Jay doesn't charge $100,000 like colleges because he's on a mission to help people find their passion and turn it into a real income. So he's trying to justify that his program, which isn't accredited by any university, isn't $100,000. It's $8,000 because he's trying to do better than colleges are. They actually write in their message, "We can get you in with all the others for only $197 a month today. And then you start to live your passion and build an income. You can settle with the remaining amount in a monthly installment. That way you can still join us and save your money." So they're really trying to get people in here, even people who cannot afford this, which who can? Here's a TikToker explaining a little bit more about Jay's approach, that it's not as mindful as he's making it out to be.
Jay focus on money making versus impact. He has this whole brand, podcast, books, and so on about making an impact, and yet his actual actions were all about just making money. And that's really where things go wrong, because he was claiming things that weren't true so that he could make more money and charge more and be more of a leader instead of actually doing the work, actually becoming a leader. And on top of that, he created this sort of like pyramid scheme of like coaches, helping coaches, sending kind of sketchy messages that I've seen other creators post about, being like, "Oh, you don't have enough money for it right now? Well, that's okay. Imagine the money you can make," like still getting them to invest even though they're not in a place to invest, because his ultimate goal was making money, not actually making an impact. That is truly the issue that's going on with him.
Let's react to a few more comments on social media. This person shares, "When I first called him a fraud a couple years ago, people ridiculed me. Thank God the truth is coming out in the open now." Another person writes, "Anyone who wants to unlock your passion in exchange for money is a gone case." Another person writes, "I'm having such a told you so moment, and I'm glad to see I'm not the only one here. I have blocked his account years ago everywhere, and I'm just so happy people are seeing his true colors." I want to know what you guys think about Jay Shetty in the comments below. It's interesting to see that this man has been able to build a reputation off of a false background, claiming he went to India for 3 years and became a monk when he in fact did not. He took a quick trip to India, came back to London, played monk pretend for a few months, wore sweatpants the entire time. Now he comes back to the US and claims that he's got this knowledge that he could help Gwyneth Paltrow and Matt Damon and Kim Kardashian find their true selves, when at the end of the day, he's nothing but a fraud. I want to hear what you guys think in the comments below. Did you fall for his tale? Are you still kind of into it? Are you lost in the cult? Because we could help you out. But again, I hope you guys enjoy it. If you have any other video ideas for me, my email is SloanWellKnown@gmail.com, and I'll see you in another one soon. Bye, guys.